and Safety Department there. And our question of the day, here it is. How were you affected by the massive taxi strike in Durban? Really affected all commuters there. That's where you answer the question. Then, later on, we'll look at the latest rhino poaching stats and focus on a new documentary that deals with the scourge. We'll also get an update from inside the Springbok camp in Birmingham in England, where Simon Burke will be updating us before we close the show with jazz artist Sindiswa Sehoa. But first, let's get the news from Anine Domal.
Good morning, I'm Anine Domal. Let's take a look at the stories making headlines today. An inquiry is underway in Saudi Arabia into how more than 700 people were crushed to death in a stampede outside the Muslim holy city of Mecca. Meanwhile, it's still not known whether there were any South African casualties in the disaster. The South African government has extended condolences following the deaths. International Relations Minister Maite Mashabane joined the Secretary General of the UN in expressing condolences in New York.
The President and the Secretary General had spoken on our behalf to pass a message of condolences to the people of all Muslim nations across the world, including in my own country, for the tragedy that befell them on their Hajj pilgrimage.
In Durban, minibus taxis are expected to be back on the roads today. The strike lasted 4 days, was suspended yesterday after an agreement between taxi bosses and the eThekwini municipality. Taxi operators agreed to pay reduced fines to release more than 300 impounded taxis at the centre of the dispute. In Cape Town, striking Sakawu members are expected to march to the Grand West Casino this morning. Sakawu members in the hospitality and gaming sectors are expected to embark on the national 3-day protected strike. The union represents about 120,000 workers in the notoriously low-wage retail and hospitality sectors. Still in Cape Town, the cause of a fire that broke out on Table Mountain is still unknown. The vegetation fire, which has been extinguished, reportedly started after 8 last night. No property was under threat, and firefighters of the Sand Parks and the City of Cape Town were deployed to the scene. Seskona People Rights Movement leader Andile Lili is expected back in the Bellville Magistrates Court today. He will be appearing on a charge of incitement to commit violence. Lili was arrested at the end of July following his controversial utterances outside the same court in which he encouraged vigilance. And as the UN Sustainable Development Summit is set to kick off today, the International Relations Minister has warned the new global development agenda should not mask serious questions about a lack of transformation within the UN. Maite Mashabane said the true test of success for the Sustainable Development Goals is to ensure that they are all achieved by 2030. She spoke in New York ahead of the adoption of the post-2015 agenda at the historic 70th session of the General Assembly. Well, of course, remember, you can find all of those stories on our Newsroom Facebook page. Just simply search for SABC Newsroom. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Evan, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anine. Now, the taxi strike in Durban has been suspended. Taxi organisations refuse to budge as they demand that hundreds of minibuses impounded by the eThekwini municipality be released. A standoff developed between taxi bosses and government officials, and an emergency meeting called to resolve the strike on Wednesday night failed to reach an agreement. However, the municipality and taxi bosses reached an agreement late yesterday. The usually bustling streets of Durban have started to return to normality this morning. Taxis started running from late yesterday to the relief of thousands upon thousands of commuters who had to resort to alternative transport. Now, our very own reporter Ayanda Mhlongo joins us from the taxi rank in the Durban city centre. A very good morning to you, Ayanda. Thanks for joining us. Ayanda, you can hear me. If you can hear me, just give us an update on the latest with regards to normality returning to the streets.
Well, absolutely, Eben, I can tell you for the thousands of commuters, as you have mentioned, it comes as a great relief as of this morning. All the taxis operating in the city of Durban were back on the roads from early this morning. And as you said, rightfully, we are in the heart of the CBD. So you can see behind me, we have some of the taxi ranks just down the road. We're just chatting to some of the commuters that were passing by here, and they were telling us that has really been a difficult 3 days for them. You'll remember, Eben, that they were left in the lurch on a Monday evening. The taxis brought many people here into the CBD, but they then down tools Monday midday, leaving thousands of people stranded. And then again Tuesday and Wednesday, people unable to get to their destinations. The effects of the strike, Eben, is even starting to have an effect on local businesses throughout the week. As we've been covering this story, we chatted to some of the business people here in the Durban CBD, and some of them said they had to close their shops because, one, their workers were not able to get to work, and as well as also, of course, fewer people were able to come to town, and therefore their businesses were suffering. But of course, as I said today, great relief to those business people, of course, and mostly to the commuters who have indeed struggled over the past 3 days.
Just take us back to what's at the heart of this strike, Ayanda.
Even last week, or what should I say, let me just take it back. It was last week we had that incident in Brook Street where there was a shooting, and unfortunately 3 people died in that incident. Following that shooting, the police then launched an operation which they said was centered around the Brook Street area. You know that those 2 rival associations were fighting over routes allegedly, and after that there was an operation. Police then impounding 300 or more than 300 taxis for not having permits. The taxi operators then, upon the news, decided to then down tools, saying that their permit was the responsibility of the government. They then accusing the government of having withheld their permits, and they then saying that they would not return to work until they were either given those permits or until the municipality released their taxis free of charge. The agreement that has now been signed between the municipality and the taxi operators, one of the points was that the taxis were going to be released, but not free of charge, at a reduced fee, at a reduced fine, I beg your pardon. Initially, they were going to pay about 3,000 rand, but those taxis released on 1,500. As well as with regards to the issue of permits, we did have the opportunity to speak to the MEC for transport here in the province, Ubabu Willis Mkhunu, and he did say that that is a matter that they are going to then look at going forward. So basically, that is how, even on those 2 matters, that they came to this agreement, which then led to the taxis coming back to work today.
Ayanda, thank you very much for that update. That's Ayanda Mhlongo. She is, she's right in the heart of Durban, where you can, as you can see from the pictures there, very much business back to normal, or business as usual in the city centre. 3 men arrested for killing a policeman and injuring another at Inanda will appear in court as well today. Now, in the past weeks, the province of KwaZulu-Natal been gripped by several violent outbursts, especially in and around Durban. Taxi violence and killings, which culminated into the nearly week-long strike that we saw. The killing of 5 people at KwaMashu Hostel was followed by the gruesome killing of the police officer there at Inanda. Now, the KwaZulu-Natal spokesperson for the MEC for Transport and Community Safety, Kwanele Ngalane, joins us in our Durban studio. A very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and good morning to all the viewers at home.
The strike is now resolved, but their simmering tensions continue within the taxi industry. Just give us an update what the situation is on the ground.
Well, we can confirm that indeed the taxis have started operating today, and we'll want to congratulate the eThekwini municipality together with the taxi industry that finally they have been able to find one another. You'll also recall that this has affected commuters so badly because they had to travel long distances, and others had opted not to go to work and others not to school. So it had a huge social impact to the community of eThekwini. Now that matters are resolved, we really appreciate that. But obviously, the MEC is still going to meet with eThekwini Metro and also to meet with the leadership of the taxi industry to understand and also make sure that we iron out all other outstanding issues to make sure that such an incident does not happen again, where commuters are just abandoned and left stranded on the street. Therefore, we want to make sure that such issues do not happen again.
What about the ongoing violence and the killings, especially around Commercial Hostel that we've seen? How are we going to intervene?
Well, we of the view that as the province, we are winning the war against the criminals and criminality in the province. For instance, if you look at the Brook Street shooting last week, 12 suspects were arrested immediately, and those suspects are still in custody. They have not been granted bail. In the Wamashu hostel, a suspect has also been arrested following the killing of 5 people, and we are hoping that police are going to arrest more others. In the incident that happened in Inanda, where a police officer was killed, also 3 suspects have been arrested in that incident. Therefore, we are at a stage where, as the province, we are able to respond swiftly, and we want to commend the police for that. But beyond that, we are appealing to the people of KwaZulu-Natal to unite in fighting crime. It is the responsibility of all of us, not government alone, ordinary people, civil organization, and everybody, business, everybody in our society must come and join hands in making sure that we are able to fight and win the war against crime.
You're talking about all the people having to come together. The Commonwealth Games is coming to Durban. We're having local government elections next year there. How can you make sure that these kinds of incidents don't affect, firstly, tourism and, of course, community safety within the province?
Well, the MEC for Transport, Community Safety and Liaison, MEC Willis Mkhunu, 2 weeks ago tabled a report to the legislature, in fact, unpacking our plans on how we intend dealing with all the safety matters in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. With the local government coming already, we have started working on the plans of ensuring that we set up proper measures and mechanisms to address those areas which are mostly problematic when it comes to local government elections. But with the Commonwealth coming to Durban, and you know that we are known for hosting major international events, and the city of Durban and the province of KwaZulu-Natal has not disappointed. Therefore, even on this one, we are going to be ready. We are going to make sure that there are proper systems. Our police are trained. Our police are well equipped to make sure that we are able to host such events of international importance with all of us coming together, dealing with all criminal elements and making sure that our visitors are safe. Therefore, we are very optimistic that as the province, we are on the right track. We are winning the war against crime, but obviously it is concerning that we still have some pockets of these incidents. Therefore, we appeal to everybody to work with government, to work with the police to ensure that we are able to arrest all the scourge of killings and crime in the province.
Thank you for joining us. That is the spokesperson for the MEC for Transport and Community Safety in KwaZulu-Natal, Kwanele Ngalane, and he's talking about, well, the result, the taxi strike there, but they're putting measures in place to handle the violence, and hopefully this won't impact on tourism in the city and, well, the province, he says. Now, the biggest story in the world right now, at least 717 pilgrims from all around the world were killed and more than 800 others injured yesterday in a crash outside the Muslim holy city of Mecca in the worst disaster to strike the annual Hajj pilgrimage for 25 years. At this stage, it is still not clear whether there were any South African casualties in the disaster, but reports have been flowing in on social media right now. Let's take a look at some of the views of those that are in and around the holy city, while others. F says, "May Allah grant peace to those who died in Mina today, and may Allah return my mother safe and sound to me." Yes, there are a lot of prayers to that effect today. From the photos I've seen of the Hajj and Mina, Mecca appears to be the unholiest looking site on the planet, says Phil Adamson. Kunle says, praying for the gentle souls lost at the Hajj stampede. May Allah forgive their sin and grant them al-Jannah. Ameen, says Kunle. And then Mujitaba Zango Daura says, Hajj stampede, may their souls rest in peace and Allah grant their families fortitude to bear the irreplaceable or irreparable loss, rather, she says. My heart's with the victims of the Hajj stampede. This is a tragedy too queer. Humanity must empathize, says Adams. And there you have a picture coming from one of the pilgrims. You can see utter despair in the holy city. We can confirm 717 people confirmed dead, more than 800 injured, many of them seriously in the stampede in the holy city. We'll keep you updated, but let's take a look at our picture of the day. It comes from ABP News, captioned 717 killed in the Hajj stampede. There you can have a look at the absolute chaos in the holy city. Those are ambulances lined up next to the road all the way up, as you can see. Hundreds upon hundreds of people taken to hospitals around the holy city. Well, time for us now to have a look at what's happening elsewhere in the world. We start in China, where the South China Morning Post reports that at least 717 pilgrims from around the world were killed yesterday in a crash outside the Muslim holy city of Mecca. Saudi Arabian authorities said it was the worst disaster to strike the annual Hajj pilgrimage for 25 years. Then in Europe, the Times leads with this story as well. It says survivors of the deadly stampede at the Hajj in Islam's holy cities describe how they clambered to safety over metal barriers as bodies piled up 4 deep around them. Really scary story. Then in India, the Hindu reports that the Obama administration has been pressing the Modi government to make more commitments in combating climate change. Those are some of the reports coming in from newspapers around the world. Let's take a look at what's happening around the country here today. We start in Cape Town. The case against the Seskona People's Rights Movement leader, Andile Lili, is expected to resume in the Bellville Magistrates Court. Lili was arrested following his controversial utterances outside the same court that allegedly incited violence against criminals. Then, still in Cape Town, the drunken driving case against Tony Ngeni is set to resume in the Magistrates Court there today. Time for us to take a short break. You're watching Newsroom right here on SABC News.
Africans, we tell a common story. Together, we make up a common picture. For the 7th time since 1998, AfriCities Summit is uniting people from local governments across the continent and asking them to contribute in voice and action to shape a common vision of transformed African cities by 2063. Join us. Learn about the AfriCities 7 Summit, Johannesburg, South Africa, 29 November to 3 December 2015.
People, we are getting there, and thanks to you, Pati is set to become our country's 12th official language. Here's today's word. Substitute. Replacing a drinking buddy with somebody more fun. That's more like it.
Help make Pati South Africa's 12th official language. Sign the petition today.
I've got a credit card.
Welcome back. As our focus was on World Rhino Day this week, a little bit earlier this week, a new feature documentary on South Africa's rhino poaching crisis called Stroop, which is Afrikaans for poach, will be released early next year. Now, a lady who's been at the forefront of rhino poaching, she's behind this film, and she's the 50/50 wildlife television presenter, Bonnet de Bod, who joins us in studio this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I've been told that you've been in court. That's why you couldn't come here earlier this week. An interesting case, and you can't say too much about it. What can you say?
Well, the criminal justice system plays such an important role in this current crisis. In the film, I'm following a couple of cases, but they are all happening right now. So I can't really say too much, and I don't want to jeopardize the cases. But a very interesting case. Judgment is reserved, and we are expecting the outcome in a couple of days. But as I said, I can't say too much at this stage, but you will be able to see it in Strip.
Tell us a little bit about Strip then, where you are, what will you be focusing on, what's the sort of big idea behind the documentary?
Strip is a 90-minute feature documentary film looking at all the aspects around the rhino poaching crisis. You know, a lot of people ask me, what is the one thing that will save our rhinos? And the shocking truth is, there isn't just one thing. It's such a multi-layered problem and choices that have to be made coming out of it. So I want the people to feel when they have watched the film, walking out of it, that they can do something, that they've felt, they've seen, and they've gone on this journey with me, and they can now go out, they are empowered with the information that I've given them, and they can now go out to make their choices. It's really as simple as that.
750 rhinos gone this year, more than 1,000 last year, and that seems to be a steady increase almost every year. Are we losing this war?
There's no other way to say it. Rhino poaching is out of control. Even the head of Kruger's anti-poaching operations, Major General Huester, has said that up to 15 incursions enter the park on a daily basis. And unfortunately, public trust is faltering. If we look at statistics, and I think on International World Rhino Day, people took notice of the statistics. In 2009, 122 rhinos were poached. End of 2014, 1,215. And I was at the media press briefing where Minister Molewa said that we are sitting at 749 for 2015. Bearing in mind that was more than a month ago. So, of course, that number is now much higher. But also, even having said that, I also know that when we are negative about the current crisis, it affects the rangers' morale desperately. And they are working so hard. They're putting their lives on the line. And I know these men and women fighting on the ground. So I hate being negative, but unfortunately, it is the case.
You have to look at the facts. It's a real war that's going on with the Kruger Park almost becoming a battlefield now. I read on World Rhino Day, the shocking thing is more than 500 poachers have been killed in the last 5 years in the Kruger Park alone, 82 of them this year. This is a war.
Absolutely. It is a war. Let's not fool ourselves. I think a lot of people want to say it's a campaign or it's a problem, it's a challenge. But we are fighting a war literally every day. I think if we look back in 10 years' time, this time around 2016 would probably be the turning point. Either we would have saved a species from extinction or we would have failed. It's bottom line.
The outlook isn't great, is it? And I'm just looking at other increases in poaching elsewhere around the continent, elephants and so forth. What are some of the other, let's call it poaching scourges that's starting to surface and concern you?
The ivory trade is absolutely shocking. I don't think many people know that it's funding terrorism. And if we look at the numbers, 96 elephants killed every single day in Africa. Every single day.
96.
96. So my question is, what is happening to us, humanity? We are going to strip the planet bare if we don't change within ourselves. That's my opinion.
There's always the overriding financial concern, and one can always lay all the ills of the world at the feet of capitalism, can't we? But I want to ask you about the Rhino Brief series that you're involved with. Just tell us quickly what you're doing.
The Rhino Brief is a series that myself and fellow filmmaker Susan Scott pitched to 50/50 as a fortnightly program, a quick roundup of what's happening with regards to rhino poaching. We were filming across the country for the film Strip, and we just realized this information is just so important. We have to share it with the nation. rather than waiting for the film to get released. But the series is very different. It is factual, it's newsy, it's definitely not a downer type of piece. Yeah. And so we highlighted the heroes on the ground, the vets, the researchers, the scientists, even, of course, the rhinos themselves. And because of the success of the Rhino Brief series, we now have an international series called Rhino Planet, due for release hopefully in Asian territories in 2016.
Well, Bonnet, it's a fantastic job you guys are doing. Let's hope we can preserve this for future generations. But sometimes I don't think that human beings think like that. Only the special few like yourselves. But hopefully you can come back in the future, and once the documentary's out, and we can have a talk about the concepts in there. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
That's 50/50 wildlife television presenter Bonnet de Bod. She, of course, is passionate about rhino poaching, the scourge that is rhino poaching. Did you know that 96 elephants are killed on the continent every single day? That was an interesting fact that you brought today. Just brought it home to me. Thank you once again.
My pleasure.
Of course, now we have to go to our other concern. After a disappointing defeat to Japan, Springboks, well, they are ready to get their World Cup campaign back on track against Samoa. Tomorrow, the Boks went down to a last-gasp 34-32 defeat by the unheralded Japanese in their opening Pool B game. Of course, the comments have been flying thick and fast on social media the whole week. There have been a lot of changes to the Boks side, most notably Dwayne Vermeulen, one of the 5 World Players of the Year last year, will be back in the Boks side for tomorrow, along with 8 other changes, 2 of them possessional. Let's just take a look at what the fans are saying. Louis says, in business, if you don't have the support structure, you fail. So how can we expect Springboks to succeed without our support? Go Bokke, he says. Derek says, come on Bokke, let's show the world what we're made of. Yes, it's crunch time at the World Cup 2015 for the Springboks. Oz the Bear says, can't actually imagine the pressure and stress that the Boks must be under before tomorrow's game. It's heartbreaking to learn that most South Africans preferred All Blacks to win the Rugby World Cup should the Springboks fail to do so, says Jim Khopisi. Yes, the All Blacks are a global brand. They even have support in South Africa, as tough as it is to swallow for all of us Springbok supporters. But now is the time to back our Boks, guys. Today and tomorrow. It's crunch time. Let's take a quick look at what's on Newsroom Facebook page. The South African government's efforts to grow the country's maritime economic sector have been given yet another boost with the formal registration of a merchant vessel under the country's flag. Then the South African National Defence Force says 50 South African peacekeepers serving in the United Nations mission in the Democratic Republic of the Congo are being recalled. And new development targets will be set at the United Nations General Assembly underway in New York as heads of state prepare to sign off on the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. The UN says an investment of $3 trillion will be needed to successfully implement these goals over the next 15 years. Now, later in the show, we'll be joined by one of South Africa's multi-talented and award-winning Afro-jazz artists, Sindizwe Segoa. This is jazz lovers will be flocking to the Joy of Jazz Festival that is currently being held at the Sandton Convention Centre. A brand new element at this year's event will allow festival goers to experience a live jazz performance through virtual reality. Now, producer Anine Dormel, she loves this kind of thing. She had a look.
It seems like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, but it's only a way for jazz lovers to experience the art form in a brand new way at this year's Joy of Jazz Festival.
Welcome to a virtual reality jazz experience in an Occupod.
Jazz is best experienced live. So when you come through to the SCC this weekend for the Stand Back Joy of Jazz, you'll be exposed to the eyewear, the gear that I'm holding at the moment, which is really around virtual reality. It takes you into a whole different world where there's a pre-recorded jazz session at a concert environment where you're able to actually, once you put the glasses on, you feel like you're part of that environment. You're immersed into this 3D virtual world where you look left and you'll see people who were at the concert. You look at the stage, you're part of it. You look to the right, you're part of all of that, all of the hype and the vibe that was happening at that concert. And it just takes you into a really different world. What we're trying to showcase is that the closer you are, the more you feel, and that jazz is best experienced live. Everything we do is centered around digitization, how we can make the client experience better through innovative ideas such as the virtual reality eyewear.
It's going to be the first time an Occupod will be used with headgear to take you into a concert. So while enjoying the real thing, make sure that you take a step into virtual reality at this year's Joy of Jazz Festival.
Good. Point. Sit.
Get behind Rugby World Cup 2015 on SABC.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsroom on SABC News. Let's take a look at the headlines. An inquiry is underway in Saudi Arabia into how more than 700 people were crushed to death in a stampede outside the Muslim holy city of Mecca. Meanwhile, it's still not known whether there were any South African casualties in the disaster. The South African government has extended condolences following the deaths. In Durban, minibus taxis are expected to be back on the roads today. The strike that lasted 4 days was suspended yesterday after an agreement between taxi bosses and the eThekwini municipality. Taxi operators agreed to pay reduced fines to release the more than 300 impounded taxis at the centre of the dispute. And in Cape Town, striking Sakawu members are expected to march to the Grand West Casino this morning. Sakawu members in the hospitality and gaming sectors are expected to embark on the national 3-day protected strike. Well, remember, you can find all of those stories on our social media sites. Just search for us on Facebook and Twitter. But Evan, back to you.
Thanks, Anina. It's Black Friday. A nervous one at that, following South Africa's stunning defeat at the hands of Minnows Japan last week. The Boks will be looking to get their campaign back on track in a must-win encounter now against Samoa. Simon Burke, he's been in Birmingham with the Boks this whole week. Good morning to you, Simon. Thanks for joining us. Okay, we've lost Simon, it looks like. We'll try and get him back maybe to give us a quick update as to what the latest news is coming out. I'm sure it'll be a nervy Boks side. But, you know, I've got a couple of guys here with me. I've got Paul Minari, who is the #1 supporter for South Africa. Yeah, he's with us. He's going to give us shortly going to tell us what the Boks should be on the lookout for tomorrow, and then what the rest of the World Cup looks like as far as the weather is concerned, because that's going to be one of the deciding factors, one would think. Then I've got Vincent Mofokeng with me. Vincent,
the Vincinator.
There we go. Vinny, just quickly, take us through what's been happening in the World Cup. Just tell us what's going on.
Well, I was chilling with Gift on Wednesday, and we were watching the games on Wednesday. And I must say, I was quite impressed with the way Japan played the first 20 minutes against Scotland. But then after that, they started, playing too many moves, and the Scottish could sort of predict what they're going to do. And then that's when the tries started railing in.
They sort of ran out of puff, really. But 4 days, after a bruising encounter against the Boks, is not enough for any team to recover, especially if you come up against a fresh Scotland side. You could see the last 20 minutes, they just ran away with the game.
Just ran away with the game. And then when you look at Australia and Fiji, brilliant game of Australia, the rucks and mauls. I thought that was pretty great. Something that we as the Springboks used to do when we still had the strength and the gas to do so. But now, I would like to see South Africa doing that sort of mauls and rucks. And when you look at France against Romania, clapping them 38-11.
Let's have a quick look at the Bok team, of course. The Bok team that'll be running out against Samoa tomorrow. Lots of criticism. The coach is on hiding to nothing, really. But Vince, tell us quickly about your sort of input in the pack. You know, that Dwayne Vermeulen is back, of course, up front. Bismarck is dropped out of the match day squad completely. It's a big change, isn't it?
Big change. I like the fact that Adrian Strauss is in. He will be playing his 50th cap. Dwayne Vermeulen was making his first test appearance of the year in the number 8 jersey. I see Meyer reacted pretty swiftly after last week's game. Willie Leroux, JP Peterson, and Damien de Arlander are back in the back line, with skipper John de Villiers shifting to outside centre. Well, one other change I'd like to see is Andre Pollard and Fourie de Prier, obviously, there. I think Pollard's going to bring a different dimension to the game, a bit of kicking there. He plays kind of basic rugby on the number 10 side. And glad to see Eben Etzebeth back.
Yeah.
It's going to be a physical encounter.
At the expense of Loet de Jager. Is it because Loet de Jager is going to come as an impact player off the bench, or is it the fact that Victor is not an impact player and is a better starter?
Victor is apparently a better starter. We're going to need the extra gas in the last 30 minutes. We need the extra gas, so let's use Loet on that time. We're going to need that extra testosterone. I was listening to Peter Hendricks saying that, listen, we need that extra testosterone, the younger player coming in.
You need the younger man. At 38, you're starting to...
let him run out of gas a bit, and then we'll put in the...
At 38, you start to lose a little bit of testosterone. It's true, you know. You're getting towards what they call midlife. Not that you are anywhere close to midlife.
I'm in a quarter-life crisis right now.
Yeah, a quarter-life crisis. Tell us quickly the outlook for tomorrow. In Birmingham and then the rest of the World Cup, because I think it's been important for us to know what the rest of the World Cup looks like, because I think the Boks will have a better chance maybe when the weather changes towards late autumn in England, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. If you can just cross into my weather system there and you'll see prepared a couple of slides, especially looking at Villa Park and what it looks like. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a bit chilly, but it's almost like our winter weather. Yeah. So about 16 degrees, the maximum temperature that we will get.
Where are your weather slides? Are they there?
Yeah, I'm hoping they would just jump in there. They are there. Yeah, but anyway, about 16 degrees and no chance of rain. So it's going to be quite a clear day. Maybe there'll be clouds here and there. And yeah, it should be pretty good. Yeah, so there it is. And have a look at the wind. Easterly winds blowing in, but not so fast. I mean, I put it up
0 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
Wow. That's not very fast,
It's not at all. So, you know, there's absolutely no excuse for the Boks. The wind will go wherever the ball will go wherever they kick it. No wind will affect it whatsoever. And, you know, the tackle should come in thick and hard, guys, you know. Yeah, the weather's going to be playing its part. It's going to be playing along. Maybe the pitch might be a little bit slightly drenched because, you know, that's how it is there in the UK. The sun doesn't come out much, so there's not a lot of evaporation. Yeah. So the grass might be a bit heavy. So, you know, like the oldies, it might be quite hectic for Victor to run the whole 80 minutes. Yeah,
it might be. But quickly, Simon, we found Simon Burke. Simon, you're on the line. Simon, what's the latest coming out the Bok camp?
Well, I've been just hanging tight. They've had a couple of days off.
Unfortunately, the line is terrible, Simon. Sorry, mate, we can't. We're having no luck with Simon Burke. Guys, thank you for coming. But before I let you go, Gift, you've been in the streets talking to the fans. The fans must have had a very difficult week.
Look,
Tell us what people are saying.
Hey, Eben, look, what's happening is that people are like panicking now, you know. People are disappointed. No one wants to lose, not at the World Cup. But if you can allow me to rewind your mind a little bit, in 2007, we lost our first game. Then we went through the World Cup final. England lost their first game, and we still played them in the final. So, however, the support behind Springboks is still pumping. You know, people are still believing in Springbok. They can repeat the history from 2007. Now we're going to take a look at what the other people are actually saying. But I can tell you now, the spirit is still high, and it's Bok Friday today. You know, we're celebrating the Boks. This is what people are saying.
Very bad performance last week, but I'm sure somebody just kicked their butts and put them into gear now. Like, it was probably with Samoa and the rest of them, they should do all right.
The boys were underprepared, you know. I feel they undermined the Japanese. And as you know, Eddie Jones is a former coach, so he knew the strategy of the old crocs, such as Victor and Jean de Villiers and all those boys.
The whole country is obviously behind them. And it was a disappointing loss to Japan, but sport is like that. And I think they took that one on the chin, and I think they'll bounce back against Samoa.
whoever walks onto the field must want to do it for the nation. You know, the hope of the nation is under those guys, and everyone who walks in there needs to take that responsibility.
I think it was a lack of commitment on our side. We underestimated Japan. We could have done more. I think the boys lacked that enthusiasm towards the game.
The stats are against us. We need to first win this Saturday game. Then we can talk about going forward. The Japan game, they caught us off guard. Nothing wrong. First game. They must just pick themselves up in the next round.
Springbok Maboko number one, I'm telling you. From 1995 to 2007 win, we support them all the way. Yeah. Go Boke!
Habashwe! Go Boke! Go Boke! Habashwe! Habashwe!
Habashwe, indeed. Back to you, Eben.
Yeah, thanks, Kev. Nice work there with the fans. That was a fantastic clip. It's nice to see that people are still positive. Despite a little setback, that's what we bring in South Africa. We can overcome all kinds of obstacles. Now, of course, we all hope that South Africans will really rally behind the Boks when they take on Samoa tomorrow in Birmingham. Newsroom knows for sure that one group of very young supporters from Grade R Academy, pre-primary in Boksburg, will be behind the Boks. This is a clip that they sent in to us especially. Very, very nice. Go Bokke, that's what we all say now. The Free State Rugby Union will, from today, kick off the Vuyo Mbuli Sharp Development Rugby Tournament. It'll be a 2-day program on Friday, and it ends tomorrow on the 26th. The 2-day program will include coaching clinics for more than 200 kids, hosted by the Free State Rugby Union and Springbok legends, followed by a knockout tournament. Now, Saturday, we'll see the 200 kids conduct a commemorative march before the match between the Cheetahs and the Lions. Vuyo Mbuli was watching this fixture in 2013 before he was rushed to hospital and sadly passed away. Now, our special correspondent, Richard Newton, joins us. Very good morning to you, Richard. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Eben, and we're talking about the Springboks. You're talking about them just now. We're talking about future Springboks here today. And I can tell you the guys have had an absolute ball. From crack of dawn this morning, they've been hitting tackling bags. They've been running rings around each other and the coaches here today. They've been scoring tries. They've been having so much fun. Boys and girls, aged from 8 all the way up to about 16, 17. We now, behind me is a knockout tournament for these young kids, and it really is a wonderful day. And it's all in honour of Vuyo, who wanted children from previously disadvantaged backgrounds to come out to enjoy the game. And we all know transformation starts at this level, grassroots. And these kids are really at grassroots level, having an absolute ball here today, Eben.
Now, I see the Springbok legends, they're also involved in this. Richard, just tell us a little bit about their involvement and who's going to be there.
Well, I can tell you that we have a lot of coaches from the Free State, all of them, in fact, from the main coach all the way down. We have former players. We have a couple of old Boks here today training with the kids. In fact, with me here is Franco Smith. Now, we all know him from his days playing out on the field. We know him as the new Free State coach. And Franco, all the guys involved today, all the coaches, because at the end of the day, this is where you actually need to start looking for talent.
Yeah, obviously we must show interest also from the start. And I think definitely we at the Free State we like to offer opportunity and scout the talent as early as we can. And I think this is the best situation, to get it across. Top coaches being involved and and enjoying it as well. It's also always so serious at the top end. And today we had a bit of fun.
And I saw having a bit of fun, but did you see some real talent there? I mean, some of the kids, the tackling bags are bigger than them.
Yeah, no, they're still very young, and but their athleticism is unbelievable, and sometimes forget how these guys, if you can just get hold of them sooner, as early as possible in their career, then they can maybe develop into very good players.
Thank you, Franco. And of course, these kids who are playing here today, enjoying themselves in the knockout tournament and the coaching clinic earlier today, will also be, as you said, forming that guard of honour for the big match tomorrow here. It'll also be known as the Vuyo Mbuli commemorative match between the Cheetahs and the Lions, the clash of the cats, if you will. And I think a lot of fun. And these kids will all get to watch the game as well. They'll be brought to the game, get something to eat, guard of honour, enjoy the game. And this is what we want to see. This is where transformation really starts, Eben.
What a way to go into the weekend. Afro Jazz. Yes, now we've got South African songwriter, composer, guitarist, singer, lady who does it all, Sindizwe Sekgoa. Very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning to you. Thank you for having me.
Beautiful, beautiful sounds. Just tell us a little bit about your inspirations in the sort of jazz world here in South Africa.
Well, I think we know that South Africa is also one of the great countries when it comes to jazz. And also I listen a lot to your Hugh Masikelas, Miriam Makeba, all our jazz greats, Bo Jonas Kwangwa, Austuno. Actually, I'm not choose. I do jazz, I do traditional, I do all kinds of music. So it's, but also me as well. I'm kind of a person who enjoys your African lifestyle. Yeah. Be it music, dress code, food, and I'm a truly proudly African, woman.
So it pours out of you. It's your soul.
It's me. I'm a very simple person. I just want to be myself and African. So it became very easy when I was working on my album. The lyrics, all of them came in your very Xhosa, because I am a Xhosa. Yeah. But also the sounds, when I was creating the music, everything was just mellow and traditional. Yeah.
Tell us about your latest album. The album is called Tata. It's doing very well.
Latest, but also it's the very first album. Actually, this is my debut album.
Okay.
Yes, launched in April as part of the International Jazz Day at the State Theatre. And after that, I had an opportunity to travel to Uganda, where I performed with Isaiah Kwatuma, a great jazz artist in Uganda. And actually, this album, what inspired me to record it was after I was invited to USA to be part of the Chinua Achebe colloquia. So I went there to perform. That time I had not even recorded. But the way I was received there, it just made me realize that actually I'm ready to do the recording. So coming back to South Africa, then I started working on putting the band together, getting all the necessary, production requirements. And of course, the album is here.
Well, it's a beautiful sound. Thank you for taking us into the weekend. Of course, this is the album. It's called Tata. Sindizwe Sekgoa, thank you for joining us. It's been a real soulful experience with you this morning.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you.
Let's take it into the weekend. This is Newsroom. Of course, we love it in the morning.
Preparing for victory requires intense effort and teamwork. When you get to it, there is no turning back, because all eyes are on you. When it's action time, nothing should stand in your way. Sports Live tackles and analyzes all the sport action. This is the home of all your sport news, updates and more. Sports Live weekdays at 8:30 p.m.